The moment Alexander Reeves discovered the homeless woman he'd taken in was Eliza Montgomery, the long-lost daughter of his business rival and the world's wealthiest man, his entire world collapsed around him like a house of cards in a hurricane. 3 hours earlier, Alexander had been driving his Bentley through downtown in the pouring rain when he spotted her, a young woman huddled in a doorway, drenched and shivering, clutching a small backpack to her chest as if it contained her entire world. Something about her eyes, intelligent, defiant despite her circumstances, made him stop. If he'd driven past, his life would have continued its predictable path of lonely luxury. Instead, he made a decision that would either destroy everything he'd built or heal the wounds he'd carried for decades. "Get in," he'd said, opening the passenger door, not knowing he was inviting in the daughter of the man who'd sworn to ruin him. Eliza had been living on the streets for 6 months, ever since she discovered the devastating truth about her father's business practices and walked away from her billion-dollar inheritance. Her designer clothes had been traded for thrift store finds, her penthouse for whatever shelter she could find. The backpack contained just one treasure, evidence that could bring down her father's empire and perhaps redeem his soul. When the handsome stranger offered her shelter, she had no idea he was Alexander Reeves, the man her father had systematically tried to destroy for 20 years. "You can stay in my guest house until you get back on your feet," Alexander said as they entered his hillside mansion overlooking the city. No strings attached. He showed her to a luxurious guest suite larger than most apartments, with a bathroom featuring a shower that seemed to have more settings than her father's private jet. For the first time in months, Eliza felt safe, though she kept her identity secret. If Alexander knew who she was, would his kindness turn to hatred? As days turned to weeks, Alexander found himself drawn to the mysterious woman. She was clearly educated, with insights about business and economics that surprised him. When she helped him solve a complex problem with one of his company's struggling divisions, he offered her a job. "I don't know your background," he said over dinner one evening, "but you have a brilliant mind. Whatever drove you to the streets, it wasn't lack of intelligence." Eliza accepted the position, knowing she was playing with fire. Each day she spent with Alexander, she learned more about the man her father had painted as a ruthless opportunist. Instead, she found someone generous with employees, passionate about ethical business practices, and haunted by something he wouldn't discuss. Their late-night conversations in his study, surrounded by books and the soft glow of desk lamps, began to heal something in both of them. When their hands accidentally touched while reaching for the same financial report, the electricity between them was undeniable. Then came the charity gala, the first major cliffhanger in their story. Alexander needed a date, and against his better judgment, asked Eliza. She accepted, despite knowing her father would be there. "I can't explain why," she told Alexander as he helped her into a borrowed gown that transformed her, "but tonight might change everything between us. There's something you need to know about me." Before she could continue, they were interrupted by Alexander's assistant with an urgent business matter. The revelation would have to wait. At the gala, Eliza kept her face turned away whenever her father was nearby. She'd changed enough in 6 months that casual acquaintances wouldn't recognize her, but her father? That was a different story. The evening was magical, Alexander's hand on the small of her back as they danced, his whispered comments making her laugh, the respect he showed to everyone regardless of their status. Then disaster struck. Her father approached them directly, hand extended toward Alexander in a rare public peace offering. "Montgomery," Alexander said stiffly, shaking the older man's hand. "Reeves," her father replied, then turned to Eliza. The moment stretched into eternity as recognition dawned in his eyes. "Elizabeth," he whispered, using her full name. Alexander's head snapped toward her, confusion and the beginning of betrayal darkening his features. "Elizabeth? As in Elizabeth Montgomery?" The ballroom seemed to spin around Eliza as the two men stared at her, one with shock and hurt, the other with calculation and triumph. "I can explain," she began, but Alexander was already backing away, the warmth in his eyes replaced by ice. "Were you spying for him?" Alexander asked, his voice barely audible. Was this all some elaborate setup? Before she could answer, Eliza's father seized the moment. "Come home, Elizabeth. Whatever game you've been playing is over." He gripped her arm, but she pulled away. "This isn't what you think," she told Alexander, but he was already walking away, leaving her standing between the father she'd rejected and the man she'd begun to love. The following week was agony. Alexander avoided her at work, assigning her to a different department. Her father bombarded her with messages demanding she return home and stop this nonsense. Alone in the guest house, Eliza made a decision. It was time for the truth, all of it. She arranged the documents from her backpack, the evidence of her father's illegal activities, including his systematic campaign to destroy Alexander through means that crossed every ethical and legal line. When she finally cornered Alexander in his office after hours, the confrontation was explosive. "I left home because I discovered what my father was doing to you and others," she explained, spreading the documents across his desk. "I couldn't be part of it anymore. Meeting you was pure coincidence, the universe's idea of a cosmic joke, perhaps." Alexander studied the evidence, his expression unreadable. "Why should I believe you? You lied from the beginning." "I omitted my last name," Eliza corrected. "Everything else, who I am, what I believe, how I feel, that's been real." She moved toward the door. "I'll be gone by morning. What you do with those documents is up to you." This led to the second major cliffhanger, Alexander arriving at the guest house just as Eliza was packing her few belongings. "Don't go," he said from the doorway. "I've been making calls, verifying your documents. They check out." He stepped closer. "But there's something I don't understand. You could have exposed him months ago. Why didn't you?" Eliza's eyes filled with tears. "Because despite everything, he's still my father. I wanted to give him a chance to make it right." She looked away. "And now I've lost you both." Alexander crossed the room in 3 strides, taking her hands in his. "You haven't lost me. But we're standing on the edge of something dangerous. Your father won't take this lying down. He was right. When Montgomery learned his daughter had evidence against him and was now aligned with his greatest enemy, he unleashed his full power against them both. Alexander's company faced sudden regulatory investigations. Eliza's past was splashed across tabloids, twisted to make her look unstable. Their personal and professional lives became a battlefield. Through it all, their bond deepened. Late-night strategizing turned into dawn conversations about hopes and dreams. Alexander's protective instincts flared whenever Eliza was attacked in the press. Her brilliant mind helped him navigate the legal challenges. When he found her crying after a particularly vicious story, he held her until the tears stopped, then gently tilted her face up to his. "I'm falling in love with you," he admitted. Probably the worst timing in history. Her laugh was watery but real. Definitely the worst timing. Also definitely mutual. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, a question and an answer all at once. The second was a promise. The final confrontation came at Montgomery's annual shareholders' meeting. Alexander and Eliza arrived together, a united front. When Montgomery tried to have security remove them, Alexander revealed he'd been quietly buying shares for months. "We're not here to destroy you," Alexander told the older man as shocked murmurs rippled through the room. "We're here to save you from yourself." What followed was Eliza's moment of truth, addressing the board with evidence of her father's actions while offering a path to redemption. "These companies can operate ethically and still be profitable," she concluded. "I've seen it firsthand with Alexander. The choice is yours, father. Make this right, or we take everything public." The boardroom fell silent. Montgomery looked from his daughter to Alexander and back again. For the first time, he saw not opponents but something that had eluded him his entire life, people who cared enough to offer truth instead of flattery. "I've spent 20 years trying to destroy you," Montgomery finally said to Alexander. And you respond by trying to save me. He turned to his daughter. You were always smarter than me, Elizabeth. I just couldn't see it. The transformation wasn't instant, real change never is. But it began that day, with a father acknowledging his daughter's worth and a rival extending a hand instead of a fist. Over the following months, the companies began ethical restructuring. Alexander and Eliza moved from cautious romance to deep partnership, their different backgrounds creating a perspective neither could have achieved alone. 1 year after Alexander had stopped his car in the rain, he and Eliza stood in that same downtown spot, now transformed into the site of their joint foundation's first community center. From this doorway to a new beginning, Eliza said, cutting the ribbon. Later that night, on the balcony of what was now their home, Alexander knelt with a ring. You went from homeless to helping rebuild an empire, he said. But you rebuilt me first. Their story, of second chances, redemption, and love that transcends boundaries, reminds us that our greatest challenges often lead to our greatest blessings. Sometimes the person who seems most different from us is the one who completes our journey. If this story touched your heart and made you believe in the power of compassion and second chances, share it with someone who needs hope today. Every new beginning starts with a single moment of courage, like stopping your car in the rain for a stranger who might just change your life forever.